name is Liz Holt. I am a native of Colorado. Not too many of us at my age around any longer. I was born in Greeley, in the same house that my mother was born in. So we've been around for a long time. When World War II started, the government conscripted my father. He was a welder, and they conscripted him to come to Denver and start working on submarine parts. So the family moved to Denver. We were in government housing, and we were there until the war ended. When World War II ended, we moved to Arvada. We bought a place in Arvada, and I've been there ever since. One rule that we always had in my family was that we always had to go to Sunday school. My folks never went, but we kids all had to go. It was just the rule, and we knew it. So I have always attended. My church was a good church. They taught the gospel, and I heard it every week. It went in here, but it never came down here. It was always knowledge, but never heart information. I was married at 25, and when I married Jerry, neither one of us were saved. Neither one of us knew the Lord. We had both been to Sunday school, but neither one of us knew the Lord. We were kind of party animals, I guess. We liked to go out and party with the crowds, with our friends. One day, a friend that we used to go out with quite a little said, "Hey, there's this guy coming to town, and let's go hear him." I said, "Okay, we'll go hear him." And that day, it was a Friday, that day, Jerry got into a car accident. Somebody rear-ended him. And he said, "I'm not going to go. I'm going to go get drunk." I said, "Well, you go do what you want to, but I'm going to go hear the speaker." So I went with my friends, and I heard and saw Billy Graham at the Bear Stadium in 1966 in Denver, Colorado. That night, the message hit here, not here. Nothing I hadn't heard before, but it came home that day. I could hardly wait for the invitation so that I could go forward. When I did, a counselor met with me. She had a packet of information. Part of it was home Bible study for 5 lessons, and I would send it back to the Billy Graham Association, and they would send me another packet. And she also gave me the Navigator's first set of Bible memory. So I started Bible memory and Bible study. And I went home that night, and I told Jerry that things were going to be different with me now. Something had happened to me tonight. And he said, "Oh, okay." And the next morning, I got up and went out to the couch, and I started my first Bible lesson and my first work on my memory verses. And then the next morning, I got up and did the same thing, Bible lesson, memory cards. And I was doing that every morning. And then Sunday came, and I said, "Jerry, you want to go to Sunday school and church with me?" No, he didn't think he would. He thought he'd go over to my parents' house. I'd been going about 4 or 5 weeks, and a lady met me in the downstairs hallway, and she said, "Liz, you're just the person I've been looking for." "What do you need?" And she said, "I'm going to start teaching 3rd grade boys, and I need a gopher." And I said, "A gopher?" And she said, "Yes, somebody to gopher stuff for me. Gopher pencils, gopher crayons, whatever. And then to sit in on the class as an extra adult." And I said, "Well, I can do that." So I began. The first Sunday that I started, the Sunday school superintendent, she was the head of all of the elementary. and she made an announcement that she wanted all of her teachers and their helpers to go to a special speaker that was going to be in town. Well, one thing that changed when I became a believer was that I was no longer a do-it-myself. I was a rule follower. How crazy was that? But I was supposed to go. She said I was a helper. I went. I was the only one there. That was from my church. The lady that came to speak was from Child Evangelism Fellowship. And she came to teach a weekend class on how to lead a child to Christ. So I learned that weekend how to lead others to Christ. So I started going to teachers training classes on Monday night. And shortly after that, it was a couple of months later, I guess, when my Sunday school teacher came up to me and she said, "Liz, I've got great news for you." Okay, and what is it? And she said, "I am moving to Erie, Colorado. You are now going to be third grade boys Sunday school teacher." Okay. So I would go on Monday night to child evangelism training classes. They taught me the lesson. They taught me the memory verse on how to teach them. And those were the two things I needed to teach in my classroom. And then I would practice them on Jerry all week long. And then I would go back on Sunday and teach them to my class. Go again on Monday night, get next week's lesson. I did that for a long, long time, several years that I do that. I finally became a teacher of teachers for child evangelism. Jerry and I had changed churches, and the new church that we went to had a new program called Awana. I fell in love with Awana. It was all the Bible memory. It was so important. It was so great. And I eventually became the director for the Sparkies, kindergarten, first and second grade. And Jerry didn't have very good health. He had a lot of physical problems, and he was becoming a hunchback. He had lost over 6 inches in his height. He was beginning to stare at me eyeball to eyeball. And he was in severe pain as his spine just doubled up on him that way. That created a lot of other health problems for him. And Jerry died in 2006. Right after he died, a friend that I had become acquainted with came and said, "Liz, how would you like to go to the jungle with me?" This was Terry Van Brunt. Many of you know her. She and Ken were here. Ken was an associate pastor here. And I said, I would love to go. So she said, "Okay, let's get you ready." The first time I went, after we came home, I turned 70. They threw a nice birthday party for me. But what was funny was that every time I would go to the jungle, they would come out of the jungle from the villages just to see me. They wanted to touch my hair. And they'd not seen white hair before. They didn't get that old. And so they wanted to come and just touch my hair. And they said, "I'm 70?" And he said, when women get old, they just sit down and let people come and wait on them. But that wasn't so with us. That wasn't quite how we did things. But I had started church here at Highlands. And when I first joined, Rick Anderson, the pastor, asked me to come in and give him my testimony, so I did. Went in and talked to him. And then he said that I would need to come back and give my testimony to the elders and deacons. So I came back it was during Sunday school class one Sunday, and gave my testimony to the elders and deacons. Among those elders was a man by the name of Ed Hult. And Ed began to ask Terry about me, just questioning who I was and what I did and all those kinds of things. And so one Sunday morning, I was sitting in Sunday school, and he came in and sat down beside me. He didn't often get to Sunday school because he didn't get up that early. I came to early service and then Sunday school, and he went to later service. But that Sunday morning, he came in and sat beside me, and after the class was over, we sat and talked, and he kept telling me how lonely he was. He just didn't know what to do with himself. In fact, he spent a lot of his time here at the church wandering around looking for things to do. So, okay, Ed, I'll see if I can find something for you to do. Memorial Day was coming up, and he was standing at the door greeting people for the second service, and I told him that I was going to go out to Fort Logan and visit my husband's grave and listen to all the memorial service talks and see what was going on out there. Would he like to go? Yes, he wanted to go. Okay, I'll pick him up. So I picked him up on Memorial Day, and we went and had breakfast and started on our way out to Fort Logan. And on the way out there, he said, you know, I think we ought to get married. And I said, what? Why? And he said, well, because I love you. And I said, well, I'll pray about it. And he said, okay, I already have. And that was that. A couple of days later, he said, we were at my house, and he asked me if I would write out a letter for him, ask him what he wanted, and he wanted something that would say that if something happened to him, all of his possessions would go to me. And I told him, I said, Ed, if we get married, all your stuff will go to me anyway. And he said, are we going to get married? I kind of thought we might. And he said, oh, he was so happy. If you've never seen Ed dance, it was something. Anyway, he was so happy. So we were planning a wedding then for the next Thursday. And it was the best move I ever made. Marrying Eddie was absolutely great. Any of you who knew him know what a wonderful, wonderful man he was. Ed died in 2019. I had 5 wonderful years with him. And after Eddie died, things began to go a little bit sour for me. I have begun to lose my eyesight. I don't think it's going to get any worse than it already is. The doctors give me shots so that it'll maintain, but not get any worse. And it's doing that pretty good now. So I'm losing my eyesight. So they won't let me drive anymore. Who can guess that? That was the hardest part, was not being able to drive. All my independence is taken away. I can't run down to the store. I can't run anywhere. But sitting around, I needed to find something. Lord, what do you want me to do? You haven't taken me home, so you've got something for me to do. What is it? And then my friend Terry suggested that I do something with the Sunday school. She said, you need to, your ministry's always been with kids, do something with the Sunday school. I'm going to take 10 minutes before class starts, and I will go in and talk to whatever age group I'm with and tell them some of the things that the Lord has done in my life. Boy, He has done a lot. And I'll get into the underlining in my Sunday school classes as we talk to them.